What's up, guys? So the Druid build is finally done. It's taken us some time. The leveling process was pretty abysmal. I'm not gonna lie. Leveling a Druid is really bad. It's hard. It takes a long time. They're probably the slowest class to level. I thought Barbarian was bad, but Druid is pretty tough to level. But once we got past the leveling phase and the build started coming together, it's fantastic. Like this build is so fun. This is probably one of the most fun classes and builds that I've played since I started playing Diablo. So we'll give you guys the nitty gritty of the build, and the first section will be the TLDR. So if you just want to jump to the nuts and bolts of the build and understand it, then you can just watch that first little section, and there'll be a build guide link in the description. So let's jump into it. All right, so before we jump into the TLDR, just to let you guys know, this build, so not sure if this is the best Druid build out there. I'm not claiming it's the best Druid build out there. The main things that we aim for, the things that I aim for when I create these builds is, one, I want to make sure that it's fun. That is the paramount part of the build. I want it to be fun, right? If it's not fun, I don't want to play it. The nightmare dungeon grind in this game can get to be really boring, and if you're not having fun with your build, then like, what are you doing, right? So fun is the first part, right? Second is we want something off meta, right? So we don't want to do something that everybody else is doing. And then third, even though we want it to be off meta, we still want to be competitive with the meta build. So Druid was kind of tough to figure out and find out how to make this work and not do something somebody else has already done, or it's been done a million times. Everyone's done Pulverize, everyone's done, NATO Druid, Shred NATO. So we came up with something a little bit different. The TLDR, guys, if you guys, you might want to stick around for the gameplay loop. I'm going to explain kind of how everything fits together, because it is rather complicated how this all fits together, but we'll go through the aspects that you need, and then we will also I'll explain the aspects, and I'll post the build guide in the description if you just want to just jump right into it, but I recommend you at least watch the gameplay loop, because that will explain kind of how all the pieces fit together. Okay, so TLDR, the aspects that you're going for helmet, we want to get the vigorous helmet. That's going to give us damage reduction while shapeshifted into a werewolf. We are going to be permanently in werewolf, so that is why we want this on our helmet. Our chest, we're going to be looking for Mad Wolf's Glee. This is pretty important on this build. This is probably, I wouldn't say it's necessary, but it's not 100% necessary, but you really want to have it. It's a huge power spike, and it really kind of makes everything fit together. Okay. For gloves, we're going to be going with Poison Creeper, the subterranean gloves, which is going to make a landslide doing a circle when you do your Poison Creeper. For our leggings, we're going to do Disobedience. For our boots, we're running Penitent Greaves. If you don't have a pair of Penitent Greaves, you can run, this one's kind of a flex spot. You can run Shared Misery, you can run Audacity. There's a lot of options that you can really run. If you have Penitent, though, it does work very well with this build, so I would recommend doing that if you have a pair. For our weapon, we're going to be running the Retaliation aspect. That's going to make it sure our core skills do more damage based on how much Fortify we have. We are going to be constantly fortified, so that's why we want that. For our amulet, we're going to be running Amulet of the Blurred Beast. We are going to constantly be poisoning things and constantly shredding, which is going to add up some nice DPS. Okay. For our ring, so one of our rings is going to be Hunter Zenith. This is another big part of the build. It isn't 100% necessary. You can still play the build without it, but it does really help turn the engine on and get everything running. Okay. For our other ring, we're going to be running with Starlight Ring. You could also run Umbral. There's a few other options that you could run. You want something that's going to give you back some resource, some mana back, or excuse me, spirit back. Okay. And then for our offhand, we're going to be running Accelerating. We're going to be critting a lot, so we want to have that increased attack speed. So TLDR, guys, if you guys enjoyed, if this helped you out, please make sure you hit that like and subscribe, and then the build guide will be in the link below. All right, so I think the best way to tackle this is to probably explain the skill bar and then explain the skill tree. There's a few things that we're going to be taking in our talents that are not going to be on our bar, and we'll explain how that all works. But as far as the bar goes, we're taking Bloody Howl or Blood Howl. That's going to give us some healing as well as some spirit generation. We're going to be taking Poison Creeper to provide some CC as well as get some damage over time on a bunch of enemies around us. We're going to be doing Earthen Bulwark, another way to get unstoppable and get some Fortify and some Barrier. Trample, another form of unstoppable as well as some CC if we can knock some enemies back. It also gives us some breathing room. If we get surrounded, we can knock some enemies back. Shred, this is our main source of damage, so pretty obvious this will be on the board. And then Debilitating Roar for the damage reduction as well as the Fortify and the healing. Okay, as far as the skill tree goes, the basic skills, we're going to be taking 2 points. It really doesn't matter what you take because we're not going to be running a generator. If you don't have the engine running yet, you'll probably want to go with Storm Strike up to Fierce Storm Strike. If you need to have a generator, if you're running out of mana and you need to get a generator, then you can. I would recommend doing this because this is going to give you a bit more uptime on vulnerability. Once you get the engine running, you don't really need. It doesn't really matter what you put here. You just need 2 points. So down to the core skills, we're going 5 points in Shred. As you can see, I've got 13 points in mind for my gear. A big chunk of that's coming from our Mad Wolf's Glee. This item is insane. You want to pick this item up immediately. It's a huge power spike. Okay, so we're going to be going 5 points here down to Primal Shred, 3 points in Predatory Instinct, 2 points in however you say this skill, the movement speed one, because we're going to be constantly in Werewolf, because one of the things that this does is this says Werewolf is now your true form. So this is going to make sure that we're always in Werewolf form, so it's just a flat movement speed buff. Okay, so that's where we're going there. As far as our defensive skills, we're going 5 points in Earthen Bulwark up to Preserving Earthen Bulwark. We're going to Cyclone Armor up to Innate Cyclone Armor. Now, as you can see, this isn't on our bar. This is going to be cast off of our Agitating Wind's Heart, which is right here. Okay. The reason why we want this is just another way to apply vulnerability, and it also gives us some breathing room if we get surrounded. Okay. Because this is a melee build. If you get mobbed, it's sometimes you can just die because you can't just get out of the the mob. All right. So Blood Howl down to Innate Blood Howl. That's for the spirit generation. We already kind of talked about that. Debilitating Roar down to Preserving Debilitating Roar. We're going 1 point in Ancestral Fortitude just to open up this Vigilance. Vigilance is going to give us just flat damage reduction whenever we use the 15% damage reduction whenever we use a defensive skill. As you can see, we've got a ton of defensive skills that we're going to be using, so this is going to basically be permanently up, so really good to have that. For our companion skills, the only companion we care about is Poison Creeper, so we're going to be maxing out Poison Creeper, going to Brutal Poison Creeper, which is going to give us increased crit chance when enemies are strangled. They're going to be constantly strangled by Poison Creepers, so we're going to just get a 20% crit chance increase. 3 points in Call of the Wild, just to make sure that Poison Creeper does hits like a truck. Down to our Wrath skills, we're going to be taking 3 points in Crushing Earth. Now, this one looks a little weird. The reason for this is because of this aspect here. Because now our Poison Creeper is going to cast Landslide and a circle around us. So that's going to allow this to do a pretty significant amount of damage, despite the fact that we have 0 points in Landslide. So that's what we're doing there. So 3 points in the Crushing Earth. We're taking 1 point in Neurotoxin. Now, the really cool thing about Neurotoxin is that it applies, so the poison is basically going to be on every enemy, and it's going to slow them, and that slow counts as CC. So when the enemies are CC'd, that allows you to take advantage of things like damage to crowd controlled enemies, damage to slowed enemies. So we can be a bit more liberal with our affixes because of this talent. So really cool that it does that. 3 points in Toxic Claws. Whenever we crit, we're going to be doing some poison damage to enemies. Really good because you crit pretty often. We're going to be taking 3 points in Envenom. We're going to get a 30% bonus crit strike damage against poison enemies. So now our crits are going to slap pretty hard. Really, really nice. And then down here, we're not going to be taking any ultimate skills. And then our last point is going to be in Lupine Ferocity, because this is going to give us a guaranteed crit that deals 70% increased damage on our 7th hit. we're going to be constantly casting Shred. So if we don't get a crit from, you know, from any of this stuff here, from any of this stuff here, we're guaranteed a crit from Lupine Ferocity. Okay, so that's the talent tree. All right, so for the spirit boons, what we're going to be taking is for our stag, we're going to take Gift of the Stag just to get 10 more maximum spirit. We're going to be constantly using spirit, so having some more is it's not a huge buff, but it's nice. It's a nice little perk. For our eagle, we're going to be taking Avian Wrath. It gives us 30% critical strike damage. We crit almost, you know, pretty often. I wouldn't say all the time, but pretty often. So this is going to make sure our crits slap. For our wolf, we're going to be taking Pack Leader. Critical strikes have a 20% chance to reset the cooldowns of your companion skills. So hopefully you can kind of see how this is starting to come together, right? We crit, resets Poison Creeper, kind of rinse and repeat, right? So that's how that works. Bolster is going to be our second thing. We get 15% Fortify whenever we use a defensive skill. We constantly use defensive skills, so this is just going to give us just some pretty nice Fortify. And then for the snake, we're going to take Masochistic. Critical strikes with shape-shifting skills. We're constantly using a shape-shifting skill. Has a 75% chance to heal you for 3% of your maximum life. Not a huge buff, but it's pretty nice. It gives you a nice little healing there. And yep, that's the spirit boons. All right, so for our hearts, we're going to be taking the Barber for our Wrathful slot. It's the best heart in the game, so it's pretty obvious that we're going to be using it on this build. If you don't want to use the Barber, I know some people just have some qualms about wanting to use it, you know, because it's super OP. I mean, it is. But if you don't want to use it, there are some nice alternatives. You could use Creeping Death. We do have a lot of different types of CC that's applied, and we do have a lot of poison damage, so Creeping Death isn't bad. Malignant Pact is also not bad if you want to use that instead. But the Barber, I think, is probably best on this build. But if you don't want to use it for whatever reason or just don't have one, I would say Malignant Pact or Creeping Death are both really decent alternatives. Okay. For our Orange Heart, we want the Dark Dance. What this one does is this is every 5 seconds you are above 60% life. Your core skills will cost life instead of your primary resource. And then skills that consume life, they deal additional damage, right? So what's really cool about this, and I didn't realize this is how this worked, is that this takes from your Fortify first before it takes from your actual life. Since we're pretty much constantly full life fortified, we almost never actually spend our real life. So really, really cool. Basically allows us to just have constant uptime on Shred and not have to use a generator, which is really, really nice. Okay. And then for our blue heart, we're going to be using the Agitating Winds. What this one does is when there's 4 to 9 close enemies, you automatically cast Cyclone Armor. That's how we're casting Cyclone Armor off of our skill tree. The reason why we put points into it, you could just not put points into it and just get the Cyclone Armor anyways. But the reason why we have the points is because we want that vulnerable application. Okay, so what turns this whole build on is there's 3 things. So there's the Hunter's Zenith, and there is the Mad Wolf's Glee, and then there's the Dark Dance, the Dark Dance Heart. So once you get those 3 things, that's essentially what ties the build together and really makes it function really, really well. So the reason is because what Hunter Zenith does is it says you gain a bonus when you get a kill from a shape-shifting skill. So for Werewolf, your next non-ultimate Werebear skill costs no resource and has no cooldown. So that means that our Trample and our Debilitating Roar basically don't have a cooldown. So that's really nice because this one is just gets us out of CC, and it generates 40 spirit. And then this one gives us a 70% damage reduction, and it gives us a ton of Fortify and healing. Super, super nice, right? And it all kind of ties together, right? Because we have this healing from this, right? Remember, we have the Starlight aspect. That's going to give us, so we get 20 to 40 of your primary resource for every 25% of the life that you heal. This heals us. We can really use this and then use this again. So we have constant healing. One thing I will say about the Hunter Zenith, it can be kind of wonky sometimes the way it works. the kill needs to come from shred. If the enemy gets killed from the barber, or if the enemy gets killed from poison creeper or your poison damage, it doesn't count for the hunter zenith. So it's not 100% uptime on it, but it's pretty close. It's I pretty much whenever you want to use either one of these skills, you'll be able to. Also, one thing to note as well is that if it is already on cooldown, Hunter Zenith will not reset it. So if you know you're about to go into like a really hard room, or there's a big fight coming up, make sure to not use Debilitating Roar until you at least get the buff. You'll see it on your bar at the bottom there. It'll tell you that your next skill is free. Then you'll want to use it, because then you'll have another one you can use in case you need it, right? So that's how that works. That's kind of how the whole thing ties together. All right, and last but not least is the Paragon Board. So I don't have a fully fleshed out Paragon Board yet, obviously, because I'm only level 66. But I did post the projected path of my board in the Mobalytics guide. That'll be in the comments. So you guys check it out. Let me know if that makes sense. I'm kind of treading on unfamiliar waters here. So I had never got a Druid this high level. So I feel like that's the right idea for what I have, but I could be wrong. If you guys have some better suggestions or things that make more sense and you're a veteran Druid player, by all means let me know. But I feel like it's a pretty good path. But yeah, so as far as the starter board, we're going to be going with exploit here, just because it's super easy to turn on, and we don't have too many ways to apply vulnerability outside of our cyclone armor. So this is really nice just to have another way to apply vulnerability. And then pretty standard stuff. We're taking the right side, taking the left side for the life. Coming up to the top, we're going to exit up here, and we're going to be taking Heightened Malice is going to be our next board, and we're going to be actually grabbing the glyph, because this is a huge damage increase. There's always going to be at least 3 poison enemies around us, so this is just a 45% multiplicative damage increase. It's really nice. Okay, so we're going to be going over here to the right. We're grabbing Sinking Fangs. We're grabbing Natureborn, and then for our glyph, we're going to be running Outmatch. And the reason why, well, 2 reasons why we're running this. One is we get the multiplicative damage increase, and then we also get the boost to both of these rare glyphs, or both of these rare nodes. So really nice, just giving us some more damage reduction and some more damage. Okay, come up here, we're gonna grab Toxic Bane. We're gonna go over here, grab Overturn, just to get a bit more damage to poison enemies and damage to elites. We're going to go up here and grab Heightened Malice, and then we're going to exit to the top. I think our next board will probably be Lust for Carnage, but I'm not sure 100%, but I'm pretty sure that's what I'm going to do next. But yeah, that's the Paragon board. If you guys enjoyed, please hit that subscribe button, hit the bell. It'll let you know when I upload new content. I will post some updates to this build once I get a little bit higher level and let you know if I changed anything. I know that some of you guys had asked for a hardcore build for a sorcerer, so I will be adding that here shortly, probably next week, because it's already Saturday. But yeah, that's it, guys. See you later.